Okay, so our objective today, 520-21. We are going to be solving trig equations. And we're going to do 2 days of this also. All right? So, before I do a lot of this, let's just look at algebra. If I had 2x squared equals 1, right? Let's just look at some algebra. And if I had to solve for x, we would just divide by 2, we agree? We divide by 2, right? We agree with that? I had x squared equals 1/2, right? You know, and then square root, right? And then how many answers? How many answers? 2, right? Square root, square root. So I'd have x equals plus or minus the square root of 1/2, right? For this problem in particular, I'm going to rationalize it, and I would get square root of 2 over 2, okay? Remember how I rationalize fractions, right? Because this is the same thing as 1 over the square root of 2, but I'll multiply by the square root of 2 over square root of 2 to rationalize, okay? All right, great. Now, the only difference is that we're not doing x, we're doing sine. Okay, so we're going to solve the same way. We're going to solve the same way. So I'm going to go my 2 sine square root of theta equals 1. And we'll do the same thing. We'll divide by 2. Divide by 2. I'll have a sine square root of theta equals 1/2, right? I'm doing the exact same thing over here, except for with sine. I'm going to square root, square root. Spencer said 2 answers. I totally agree. I've got sine of theta equals plus or minus the square root of 1/2. But if I rationalize that, I've got sine of theta equals plus or minus the square root of 2 over 2. Now, I think that answers on my unit circle. I really do. If I have a sine of theta equals the square root of 2 over 2 and a sine of theta equals negative square root of 2 over 2, plus or minus, right? Believe it or not, there's 4 answers. There are 4 answers. In fact, let's find them. Sine, I'm going to use my unit circle. Sine is the y value, right? In a point x, y, right? Sine is my y value. So if I look at my unit circle and I'm looking for a y value square root of 2 over 2, here it is. Now, I want, in this first example, in terms of degrees, okay, degrees. So, square root of 2 over 2, 45 degrees. Awesome. I've got 1 answer. So we'll say theta 1, 45 degrees. It's also right there. There's a y value, the square root of 2 over 2. So I've got another angle, 135 degrees. So theta 2, 135 degrees, okay? Sine of theta equals negative square root of 2 over 2. I think there's a y value right there at 225 degrees, right? So theta 3 is 225 degrees. And then there's one more answer. One more answer. Theta 4. There's a negative square root of 2 over 2 at 315 degrees. How you like that? 4 answers. Woohoo! Killing you, aren't I? Okay. What'd you think? Let's look at example 2. Well, cosecant is not on my unit circle. Cosecant's not in my calculator. But what I will do is at least take the square root of both sides right now, okay? You ready with that? Square root, right? And so I'll have cosecant of x equals 2 answers, right? You guys agree? Plus or minus 2. All right, you okay with my first step? Just square root, right? So now, plus or minus 2 really means like 2 equations to me, so I'm going to go, okay, cosecant of x equals 2 and cosecant of x equals negative 2. Okay, how am I doing? The cosecant, yeah, Spencer, you're already getting it, aren't you? Cosecant is not on the unit circle, but sine is, right? So 1 over sine of x is equal to 2. And over here, same thing. 1 over sine of x equals negative 2, right? But, Spencer, you're already ahead of me. You've probably flipped them both, didn't you? Pretty great. Make it not sine of x equals 2, but sine of x equals 1/2. And sine of x equals a negative 1/2. And again, I think those answers are on the unit circle. So, sine again is my y value, right? Sine is my y value. Some point x, y. So I'm looking for 1/2. 1/2 is here. And I want it in degrees, right? 1 degrees. So it's got to be 30 degrees. So angle 1, x1 is 30 degrees.
You know how you put the square root over the 2 up top?
Yeah.
How do you know that you're supposed to do that? Like, do you do that for every problem?
No, just because, in fact, I'll highlight it. You'll see it. I know you'll totally see it, okay? It is, Chloe, cosecant squared. See the cosecant squared?
So if it doesn't have the square, then you don't do that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Now there's a second answer for 1/2, and that's there. So 150 degrees, right? So x2 is 150 degrees, okay? Sine of negative 1/2, I think that's on the unit circle also. One answer is here at 240 degrees. Oh, no, but I'm wrong. Y value, not x value. Oh, 210 degrees. So x3 is 210 degrees. And x4, I think is right here at 330 degrees. Okay, all 4 answers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, how am I doing? Thumbs up? You guys can do this. All right, now, this one's different. We got a cosine squared, cosine, and a number, okay? So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to do a little bit of algebra. Okay, if I said what's x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals 0, and you saw that, and we're in pre-calc now, so if you can't factor, bummer for you, right? But you know how to factor this. Of course you do. What is this if I factor this? What's this factored? Come on, Spencer, help me out. What's this factored?
I'm really bad at factoring.
Zoe, you want to help me out?
3 and 1?
Yep, we're going to go x minus 4 and 1, but I knew you meant that. X minus 4, x plus 1, right? You guys agree with that? Because they'll multiply to make negative 4, but they'll add to make the 3. So instead of x, we're doing cosine. You okay with that? So we're going to factor in the same way. Instead of x's, we're going to do cosine. So I'm going to do cosine theta minus 4 and cosine theta plus 1. Okay? Now, just like in algebra, we had many equations, right? Remember how we did the many equations? I'm going to do the many equations here. Got my cosine theta minus 4 equals 0 and cosine theta plus 1 equals 0, okay? How am I doing? I'm going to solve cosine of theta equals 4. Wait a minute. The unit circle has a radius of 1, not 4. So this can't happen, right? So this one we're just going to, that can't happen. Cosine cannot equal 4. But on the other side, we can go cosine of theta equals minus 1, right? And that happens at 180 degrees. The cosine value is negative 1 at 180 degrees. So theta is 180 degrees. So this problem only has one answer, whereas the ones prior had 4, okay? Because that won't work. All right. How am I doing? I bet you would.
Will you know automatically if the other answers don't work? Like, will you be able to tell?
Yes. Sine and cosine can never be bigger than 1. Never. Tangent can. but sine and cosine can never be bigger than 1 because it's an x and a y value, and the largest that is on a unit circle, an x value of 1 doesn't go beyond that, and a y value of 1 doesn't go beyond that, right?
So you will know.
You'll know,
Okay.
yeah. It's just sine and cosine, okay?
And then like if it's on a test, would you want us to just cross it off? Or
Yes.
just put the- Okay.
Yes. I mean, we could put undefined, but I don't need to because I have an answer, right? There, I do have an answer, so this is what I want to keep. Can't have any answers from here, okay? Okay, example 4. It's like having x's and y's, and you can't solve for x's and y's. They're different variables. So what do I do? Well, if I change this one right here, hold on. I go to my identities. Cosine squared is equal to 1 minus sine squared. If I can change my cosine into 1 minus sine squareds, then they'll all be in terms of sine. So I know that cosine squared theta is equal to 1 minus sine squared theta. And so I'm going to make a substitution, God bless you. I'm going to put this in for cosine squared, and then everything will be in terms of sines. Okay, so I'm going to go sine squared theta minus a sine theta equals, not cosine squared, but we'll substitute in a 1 minus a sine squared theta, okay? All right, a little algebra on the side because I know you'll see it. A little bit of algebra on the side. So if you had to solve for x, what would you do? I'd bring this one over, right? I'd bring that over and factor, right? I'd probably bring that over. I'd add my x squared, probably go plus x squared, right? I'd have a 2x squared, and then I'd probably bring over the 1. So I'd have 2x squared minus a 1x minus a 1 equals 0, right? I mean, if this were x's, just x's. And then I'd have to factor, and I might go 2x, x. I might have to go a minus 1, a plus 1, okay? That's my algebra. There's my factoring, okay? So we do the same thing over here, except with sines, okay? So what did I do over here? I added my x squared, so I'm going to add my sine squared theta. All right? With algebra, what else did I do? I brought the 1 over, right? So I'm going to bring the 1 over. I'm going to go minus 1, minus 1. So I'll have, just like the x's, I'll have a 2x squared, but I'll have a 2 sine squared theta minus my 1x, but minus my 1 sine theta, and then minus 1 equals 0, okay? Now, on the algebra, I factored it. Factor 2x plus 1. I mean, you can check the inside and out, right? There's my double smiley, negative 2, positive 1, right? It'll work. So I factored the x's. I can factor the sines in the same way. Instead of x's, though, it's sines. So I'm going to go 2 sine theta plus 1 and sine theta minus 1, okay? Well, I've got my mini equations, just like we had before. So I'll have my 2 sine theta plus 1 equals 0 and my sine theta minus 1 equals 0, okay? And I'm going to solve. Right? So I just went minus 1, divide by 2, sine theta equals negative 1/2. Oh, I think that's on the unit circle, right? And then over here, plus 1, sine theta equals 1. I think that's on the unit circle also. Okay, so I want everything in terms of degrees still. So let's see if we can find it. Y value, right? I'm looking for a y value in some point x, y. So I'm looking for a y value of negative 1/2. And I find it here at 210 degrees. So theta 1 is 210 degrees. And I also find a negative 1/2 here at 330 degrees. And there's my first two answers. Sine equals 1, remember, sine is the y value. It only happens in one spot at 90. So I get 3 answers this time. Okay, now, 1 through 8 all. And with time left in class, I think you'd probably appreciate it if I helped you with them, right? You guys agree with that? Page 326, 1 through 8 all, and the extra is 17. So let me stop my video, and let's do these together, okay?